Coach, I guess, what is your focus heading into the off season? What are some of the things that you want to address? Obviously, I'm sure you've got, in the wake of a tough season, you got some things you want to focus on to try to get your program better. What would those be, Coach?
How about enjoy Army's win for a little bit, brother? Don't skip over that too quickly now. Still a beautiful day out there. So right now, Eric, just a little bit of our focus right now, Wags. Just no, I'm serious. I mean, yesterday was a tough day. We were able to go and celebrate the life of Brian Bourgeois, and to have so many Brotherhood members there was awesome. Just to pay respects to him. Obviously, sad day, but also to be able to celebrate Brian's life. So that was our focus yesterday, just to forget about the game and go pay respects to one of our brothers. And to see so many former Brotherhood guys there was great. But really, Wags, our focus right now is recruiting. You know what I mean? So we got signing day coming up. So, we're in some last minute battles with people. Most of our guys, we feel pretty good about them signing, but you're still in some battles where a kid's not decided. So that's the focus. We're watching the game, 2 Wags, you know what I mean? And so staffs, both sides of the ball and special teams, we're watching those kinds of things. But, we talked this morning to the staff that, we're excited about our team coming back. That game is a great game to catapult us into the off season. Ton of guys coming back. Coach Fitz will, start our workouts once we get back. But really the focus right now is recruiting. Finals are coming up, Wags. So, it doesn't matter if a kid's not around. You know what I mean? So before we can even jump there, there's things that you got to do that I've learned over here at the academy that, obviously we got to finish up in the signing date, recruiting, just all of that stuff. We're still trying to retain our players because, Christmas time for younger guys, they get to go home, and some of them have, questions about whether they want to be here or not. You know what I mean? Wags. So these are the normal things that happen during these times that, hang in there. Things will get better once we come back for winter conditioning and workouts, but we're still in the phase of, where do we go from here? There's things that we've talked about, but it's first and foremost to build off this game. I think for us, it was a huge statement because I feel like they felt like they'd arrived, and I think I think things kind of realigned after that game, and those are my feelings. Just especially to watching the game after, is like I thought we played really, really well, and so things that I had some concerns about maybe in years past, like maybe, I don't know, they might have knocked us off the ball on both sides of the ball maybe the year before, but they couldn't knock us off the ball on defense, and we were getting movement on offense. So there's some encouraging things that way. Just makes you realize that, we're recruiting the right kids. Coach Fitz and them are doing a good job in the weight room. But I guess kind of what transpired in that game is kind of what I thought. To me, the difference going into that game were just the people we played. You know what I mean? That's how I truly feel. And it's not a knock against Army. I just feel like, we had played some of the schedules that our records would have been similar. And I said this early on, it's not complaining, it's the truth. This was the hardest schedule that I've ever had in all of my years of coaching. So sometimes, like I said, and I shared this analogy, Wags, but I don't know if people really understand what I'm talking about, but I feel like we were decent at doing some stuff. But if you could be a decent boxer, but you might lose to, somebody who's really good like Floyd Mayweather, it doesn't make you a bad boxer. It's just that guy's really good. Playing Cincinnati, I thought we played them really well. It doesn't make you a scrub team to lose to them to 28-20. You know what I mean? But sometimes that's all people see. They just see the end result, just the record, 3-8. but they don't see the quality of competition that we played and how close those games were, and that we were in on all of it. So we're just going to build off this game, build off the things that happened. I felt like we got better every game and improved, and that's all I could ask for. I feel like we ended this. I feel like we were going to end the season like this, and I just feel like, I guess to answer your question, just keep going like that as the season ends, I guess, Wags.
You mentioned, you mentioned the early signing period. This is this week. Do you expect to lock up most of your recruits during the early signing period?
We do, Wags. Most kids are signing in the early signing date nowadays. They just want it over with so they can focus on their senior year. So we didn't know how this would transpire earlier on, when guys would sign, but the majority of our kids sign. Some other schools, they might sign a lot of kids early, but they also keep some stuff open for the transfer portal, which obviously, we can't. But, a lot of schools keep some spots open just in case somebody pops later on. But the majority of ours is signing early, signing Wags.
And you mentioned Brian Bourgeois. I know that his widow and children were in the locker room after the big win on Saturday, and I believe that Megan Bourgeois addressed the team. I don't want you to tell me what she said, but can you just talk in general terms what it meant to have them there? Because I know that you all had dedicated the game to them.
Well, just being there for his service, it was actually a beautiful service. Scott and Stacy and the coaches went, and it was, all of us have been to funerals. That's part of life. But it was a beautiful service, really beautiful service. The thing that I found interesting is just people, Wags, from different parts of his life, like the SEAL team community and all the SEALs. They described to Brian, and then his brothers from the football team described to Brian. It was the same Brian. His family would describe a Brian. It was the same person, but they all mentioned that, he would have loved being there because all the people that he loved and all the parts of his life that he loved were there. His family, his wife and children who obviously he adored, the football brotherhood and the SEAL community. Those were what mattered to him, and they were all there in full force, supporting him and his wife, and showing their respect to Brian. But it was great for obviously a tough time for Megan and the children and their family, but it was a great experience, Wags, for us. And I know Stacey and Scott and all the coaches can say the same thing. I was very grateful that we were able to go, just to be a small part of the many people who came to pay their respects. And probably one of the cooler things, Wags, is to see former Brotherhood guys come from all across the country, to be there and pay their respects to Brian. It was awesome.
All right, I'll give someone else a chance.
Scott Wyckoff.
Continuing on that theme, Coach, what does it mean that the way your players and your team responded to how they wanted to dedicate themselves in this game and their respects to Brian, who most of them had never met, had never played with? But what does it mean that the brotherhood means that much to these young men, that they knew the importance of it?
Yeah, I can't, our brotherhood is built on love. I don't know what Army's or anybody else's. Ours isn't built off a hatred of Army. Our culture is built off of love for our teammates and our brothers. And it's what we've always emphasized. And to see the way our players played for a brother that, like you said, most of them didn't know, but it didn't matter. He was one of us. Pay their respects to him, show their love for him. It's who we are. It's our culture. It's our culture of our brotherhood of love for each other, and just to see it in action was pretty special.
With the quick turnaround, just a few days this week, can what happened on Saturday on the field and on national television make a difference in this signing day that's only a few days after it?
It already has. It already has. We've already flipped some guys. They're thinking about another place I won't say who the other place is, but if thinking about other places, I mean, they've already flipped. So we flipped some guys, and some guys that weren't really sure, deciding to come in. We're still in some battles, but it's already paid dividend wise. I mean, Scott, the thing about it is, Scott, what do you say the amount of people that watch that game? I mean, there are a ton of people that watch the game, so.
At the end of the game, it was up to 10 million.
Okay. So I think, we're the exposure that we get, it hurts us in Army sometimes because really the week before you're able to go out and recruit, but we don't because we want to focus on, winning the game. So Air Force is out recruiting. So sometimes, you're not able to get in homes, but I think we're able to get in a lot more homes just because of that game to get out and see people and they can see us firsthand who we are as a program. When I think of anything that probably helped us in recruiting and all that stuff, Scott, is to hear Diego talk. I think Diego speaking about who we are, on national television, paying respects to Brian, paying respect, to those that have gone before. I think he just showed who we are as a program, you know what I mean? So all of that paid well for us in recruiting.
And this recruiting season coming off what it was like last year, how it's evolved, is it still more difficult than before because of COVID?
No, because there's some stuff going back. I think the hard part sometimes is not everybody has played well, although most people have played a lot of games, but you're still able to make Zoom calls, which I think has been beneficial when you can't get into home. But things have become a little bit more normal in recruiting, Scott, this year.
When you do set your goals for the offseason, how do you do that? Does that come out of your postseason interviews with the players and your staff that you sit down and decide what your specific goals are between the end of the recruiting season and then when you're on the field again?
No, we've already started to talk about stuff, so we're watching the game. We're already talking about stuff. We're already talking personnel. So you reflect. First of all, you got to analyze what we got, who's coming back, some of those kinds of things. But our stuff is way deeper than football and X's and O's. We got to figure out who's past swimming, who's got grades and stuff like that. So that's all part of it. And then on the top of that, we're still trying to get recruiting in. But I think as we watch film, I think really for us, I'm going to allow guys to kind of take this time when we go back for Christmas to kind of discuss certain things, continue to digest the season. Then when we come back, and again, we're in contact with each other. We'll probably have some Zoom calls while guys are on break, to kind of, touch base and stuff. But most of that it's kind of organic. It's ongoing. But there's so many moving parts, like you never stop. So the game just finished. We're out on the road recruiting the very next day, in homes and doing that. Now we're coming back. We're watching, we had the funeral yesterday. Today we're watching the game, trying to see some of that stuff. Today we're talking about injuries, surgeries, academics, military assignments, just all those. There's a plethora of things that go into a person here at the United States Naval Academy. It's not just school and football. There's a lot more to their lives. So we just got to make sure all of that's in place, and then we can get to the other part. You know what I mean? But that's kind of where we're at right now, just building the foundation of the person, kind of where they're at, to make sure they're here, to make sure they're eligible, to make sure they've met all the military requirements. And then we can worry about their pad level and, all those kinds of stuff.
Also, when you talk to the players after the season, especially the younger players, do you then go back and kind of coach them up on maybe some of the things off the field that they might have struggled with in their first couple of years on campus that maybe can help out when you get back to the football field, that whether they might be more attuned with that you're kind of helping them out with that experience on campus?
Yeah, all of that stuff is ongoing. How do I put this? We don't do anything else. This is our job. So you do the football part, then when football's over, you're talking to guys off the field stuff. like as we're meeting with guys, like you said, Scott, and so all of that's happening right now. You're talking to them about their grades, talking about how they're doing, maybe things that they're doing good or could be doing better. Coach Fitz and I have already talked about, he's putting his plan together, and a lot of it you do. We've been doing this a long time, and you got some ideas of stuff that you've done in the past. But 2022 is a different team. So sometimes, okay, when do we want to do this? In fact, Coach Fitz and I had a discussion this morning about ways he wants to put, our workout together. But we have to make sure it's customized for what this team needs. So you can't just jump into things and like, okay, just, fill out blanks and, this is what we did during that season and do things. You got a template, but you got to be able to adjust it and formulate it to what you feel is best for this team. Like I said, the thing I feel good about, we got a ton of returners coming back, or guys who played meaningful snaps. You know what I mean? And so, plus we got a quarterback, young quarterback. Really, X was playing well until he got hurt. Young quarterbacks that are coming back that are being Army. And that's their last experience. So I think that's going to bode well for them and their leadership, off the field as we start, we come back and start the new season or start the off-season training.
And finally, for me, are the Niumatalolos going to be able to go to Pasadena? And if so, how cool is that going to be?
I'll definitely be there. We'll be there. And I'll drown out my sorrows of not being at a bowl game ourselves to go enjoy my son's team playing in a Rose Bowl. So that's going to be exciting. Our family will be there.
Thanks.
Thanks, Scott.
Phil Bergman.
Coach, a lot of teams preach brotherhood, but bringing in the Bourgeois family, you guys showed brotherhood. Just to recruits, as you're talking to them, just how important is it to show them that when you're saying brotherhood, you actually mean it here at Navy?
Well, we had some recruits in our locker room. They see it because they saw we had former players that were in there. A ton of former players were there. Recruits that are there. The current players were there. They had the Bourgeois family, like you said, in there. And I think you're exactly right, Phil. I mean, you can say a lot of things, but the kids see it. They see guys in there hugging and crying and how close our team is. And I said this before, I really believe the leadership that this team showed is the best leadership that I've ever seen here. And so if you really say that the United States Naval Academy is about developing leaders for our country, then this might be one of the best groups that we've ever had. If you really mean it, or are we just a football team? That's all that matters. That people just talk about football, that all matters. But if you really think about, developing leaders for our country, if that's the goal, the end state, it's probably one of our best years, man. But to that point, Phil, people saw it. I just saw the recruits after. They're coming there, they're elated, but they're seeing guys crying and hugging each other. They see former players coming back, and they see a family that's grieving now, and how current players that really didn't know Brian are embracing his family. We were able to toss the youngest son up, in our celebration that this is who we are. This isn't a facade. There's nothing phony about this. Our program is a strong foundation built on love.
Kind of going off that, Navy football is bigger than just football. What does it mean to you to finish the season and continue coaching at a place like Navy where the game is part of it, but it's so much bigger than just what happens on the field?
Just feel very fortunate. I always sit there after the game, fortunately, 10 times as a head coach, we've sang second. A couple times you had to sing first. That wasn't too fun. But for this time to sing second, I just always sit there, Phil, and I just sit back and just look at it. Even I feel for their guys. Just seeing them, just because I know they go through a lot. And so there's some sympathy and empathy for their players. But overriding for me is to see our players and see their adulation and their joy and all the happiness that they have. That everything you put into our program is for that. That's the culmination. everything is about beating them. And so to get to that and to beat them and accomplish your goal, man, it's amazing. And just to see the players after, feel I never take it for granted. I feel blessed to coach here, to be able to see our seniors go out on top. It doesn't get any better than that.
Thank you.
Thank
Let's go to Mitchell Northern, SB Nation.
Coach, yeah. I was looking at kind of the depth chart again, just to sort of see how many guys, starters, were coming back next year, and you do have a good chunk. How much, I guess, momentum and kind of positivity does that give coming off this big win? You just said it. This is the biggest game of the year. You prepare all year to beat Army. How much does that work for them in this offseason?
Well, I think it really helps us, Mitchell, because I think there's so much building up to them. That the hype was built up that this big bad monster and they've done this and they're doing all that, and that they were on the rise and they were the dominant ones and we were the step, or whatever all these things are brought out. I think it was great to see, what happened, and that we played really well and got after them. And so it made me feel good that our culture is strong. And I kind of look at it this way. People put all these dates, but I made some pretty significant changes in 2018. Which were hard for me because I love those guys and love their families, and we made some significant changes. So I kind of look at it from that date as kind of the date. So if you go to that, since that date, we're 2-3 against Army.
2-1. 2-1.
Excuse me. Or 2 out of 3 games we
2 out of 3. Yeah.
Sorry about that. 2 out of 3. Sorry. Thanks, God. So we're 2-1, but we won 2 of those games, and so I feel good. Guys keep going back to 4 and 5. Wait a minute. Don't look at. We made some significant changes. So our program since Newberry and come that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't look back because we made some changes, and since then we're in 2-1. But I also look at it, Mitchell, as I'll just say it, and people can say, "Well, you're complaining," or whatever. I'll just say, I'll put the other one as an asterisk. How do you get a Commander-in-Chief trophy and both games are played at your place? I want one of those days. When do we get that one? Where we get to play both schools at Annapolis, It just, that's a huge advantage to have both games play off. So what I'm saying is, I feel really good, Mitch. I feel really good about where we're at. Like I said, nobody likes to lose. But if you go pick up basketball and the NBA player is the guy that dunks on you, it's a lot easier than the guy with the knee braces with the headband dunking on you. He's like, okay, he plays Division I football. He's a really good player. And so even though our record wasn't as great, which we would want it to be, and we're going to continue to fight to get that, some of the guys that we lost to weren't too bad. And so I think it bodes well for us, Mitchell, for the future. We got guys coming back, and I really believe there's a euphoria right now around the academy, man. And here, guys are still walking on cloud 9 because we feel this. I really feel this is going to catapult us to some great things. Because there's no way our schedule can be the 3rd hardest next year. I know it's going to be hard, but it won't be the 3rd hardest.
And I just wanted to ask, I know you said the focus is recruiting right now. And you guys are riding high off this Army win, excuse me. Do you expect any staff changes this offseason, bringing new guys in, maybe some guys leaving, whatever?
No, I don't, but I also know that guys get talked to, and so there could be some guys that, get some other opportunities. And I always tell guys, I don't want to hold anybody back. There's some better opportunities. That's, more power to them. We've made some additions, some hiring on our recruiting staff. I think it's going to help us. And so we're going to continue to do that. And so, Danny coming and helping us, he's going to add a lot to our program. And so I think we can't officially announce it yet because he's still working on stuff right now, but we got some stuff going on.
You can say he's signed his paperwork. I just haven't done it yet, but you can say who it is.
So we have stuff coming on, So I guess to your question, yeah, there's some changes that are happening, but I think there's additions, I guess I should say. And so a lot of great things happening in our nutrition center. I know there's been some renovation that might take some time in the indoor facility, but that's a ways off. But a lot of good things happening right now, Mitch. A lot of good things.
Thanks, Coach.
That's good.
He doesn't have a question because he's at the shoulder surgeon, but I just want to give a shout out to Kareem for dialing in to listen, even though he's getting looked at by the doctors. We'll go to Wax.
What you got, man? You got a torn labor right now?
I don't know if he can talk, but I believe that is correct.
Well, I pray for you, man. Hope you get better, Kareem. That's from lifting all those boxes of your shoes, man.
Yep.
Kareem taking a break from his travels. He was in Detroit with the Wizards, then New Jersey for Army Navy, and the next day after that, he was down in South Carolina for Maryland women's basketball. So he's crazy.
He was in Indianapolis before that.
Hey, real quick,
the post got him working. Sorry, go ahead, Wade.
the other question I was going to ask is twofold. Number one, do you feel there's no longer a level playing field when your AAC rivals, and that was a standard of Strauss's notes all year, they've got 30 transfers, 16 of whom are from Power 5 schools, and you can't take any. Do you think it's not a level playing field? And B, it isn't like Navy can't take transfers. They just have to start over as plebes. Do you think that you might start trying to get more guys to transfer after 1 year and just say, hey, you got to start over here, that's the way it is? Or is that not even feasible?
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard for that to happen. But I don't know if I can change my thing. Where is it? But can you guys see that?
Yep. Up a little bit.
Do you guys see Memphis?
Yeah.
Did you guys see that picture?
Yes.
I'm just saying the teams don't look the teams on our conference don't look like that anymore. That was 6 years ago, 2015, and yeah. To your point, Wags, yes, they look different. The teams don't look the same, but I mean, we're just trying to do the best we can. We got great young men. We just try to recruit the best kids that we can. Try to develop them the best we can. Try to feed them. Try to make sure they get their swimming done. And just do the best we can, and then try to beat them on Saturday. You know what I mean? Just, but there are some things that I'll see if I can address, with Chad and our administration, and see if there's some stuff that we can do to maybe help, level some of it with recognizing those things that you just talked about, like we can't do. You know what I mean? It's just, that's not going to happen here. I mean, we're not going to take. It's too hard for those guys. They don't. If they do transfer, they don't want to go. If they transfer, they don't want to go through plebe summer. You know what I mean? When they transfer, they want to be able to play immediately. They don't want to, come do push-ups for 2 months before they play. Especially when they're transferring, I guess I should say. Now, the guys we're recruiting, they recognize what's going on. But a guy that's coming out of transfer portal deal, those are hard sells. You know what I mean? Just, so yeah, that one's hard. But you're true. I mean, what you say is a reality. Right?
What has it meant to you to have Diego develop under your tutelage, especially that you came in when he really you switched him in positions his sophomore year and were able to move on with him from there?
I don't really take credit for his tutelage, to be honest with you, Scott. I think Coach Volker's done a great job with him, and I think they've got a great relationship and a very candid relationship. I think you've seen Diego. He's always had leadership qualities. Obviously, always been a good player, but I think his leadership qualities have grown tremendously over the time that he spent with Coach Volker, and I think a lot of that also is our head football coach and the way that he leads our program, and that trickles down to his staff, and then I think to the players. I think that ultimately is why we've had such good leadership. I think it comes from the top and it trickles down, and I think when our senior captains have been in this program for 3 years, they see that and they emulate it, and yeah, those guys all had natural leadership qualities and ability. But I think that's the mission of our program here, is to develop that in those guys. And so that's what's so pleasing to see guys like Diego and the kind of leaders they are by the time that they're seniors. But can't say enough about those guys and the way they've led our program, the resolve, and in the midst of two really tough years, back to back, but they never swayed. Stayed the course, that did what we asked them to do, stayed positive, in spite of some natural human frustration with some of the things that happened. But I thought you saw that kind of culminate in the Army game, and those guys never gave up, kept fighting, and was really proud of what they did, and happy for those guys, and especially our seniors, before it happened on Saturday.
What does it mean for you when you're recruiting to have an example like a Diego, the way he plays and the way he comes across when you go into families' homes?
I think it's really important. I think you see the way he plays, you see that he's a guy that's got some NFL capabilities, which I'd say the majority of young people today that love football want to have that opportunity, and we see a guy like that is going to have that kind of opportunity, and a guy that does things the right way, a guy that could have left and stayed and kept fighting, and so I think it's extremely important to have him as an example in our program, what you can be when you come to school here, knowing that it's not going to be easy, but if you stay with it and you keep working, that it's going to pay off for you.
Do you find yourself during the season kind of in the back of your mind thinking, as things are playing out, some of the things that during the off season that you might want to add, some new wrinkles to the defense that you brought here?
Yeah, maybe not so much during the season, Scott. I think what we do all the time at the end of the year is we'll go back through and we'll watch cut-ups and figure out what we need to get better at, what we were good at. Then you look at your personnel. And that's always, kind of what we base our defense around. I mean, there's a lot of really good things you can do out there, but do you have the personnel that suits those things? And so that's always what we try to do. You study people in all season, try to find some things you like, and can you incorporate it into your system? Is it a natural fit for the things that you already do? And so that's part of the fun thing about the off season, is you're going through spring ball and kind of seeing where you're at, and seeing kind of the makeup of your roster, which we have a good idea about that already, but certainly there's guys that always surprise you, guys that didn't play much this year that were freshmen, who show up in the spring and catch your eye and those kind of things. So that's always a constantly changing and evolving. What we do here schematically, and we've got a base, obviously, but we always seem to expand and grow off of that. And we'll experiment with some things, probably. I have some ideas about some certain things I think we can do and obviously get better at. But that always is a kind of an evolving process. Though.
And finally, what does it mean to you to now have 3 or 4 recruiting classes that you've been able to get together with yourself and the folks that you have recruiting defensively, knowing the type of players that you want to fit into your defense?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think you're starting to see. Obviously, we had a lot of young players that they got some really good experience this year. Had some young players starting for us, and so I think we're starting to look a little different in the way we've tried to recruit some more length and those kind of things, a little bit more athletic ability, and so I think you're starting to see that show up a little bit, with a lot of these young players that you see getting reps.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Phil Bergman.
Coach, what are you going to remember most about this 2021 team?
Their resolve, just their consistency, the way they kept going to work. Some of the things that I've probably mentioned every week, Phil. It's a special group. I've been coaching for 22 years. I don't know if I've been around a better group of young men. And the old saying is that adversity reveals character. I think that couldn't be more true with this group. And what they fought through and battled through, and really the last 2 years. And so to stay in the fight and keep working and keep doing things that we asked them to do, and to stay together, and then see it culminate at the end with a win like that. Really, when you watch the film too, Phil, we physically got after their rear ends, and the way we played harder. We were more physical. We out executed them. I think we beat them in every phase, pretty convincingly, in my opinion. And so that kind of puts an exclamation point on a frustrating year. But to finish that way is awesome for our players. It's proof that if you just keep working and keep your head down and keep grinding and keep fighting and stay together, that good things are going to happen eventually. And we had a tough year. We had a tough schedule, but we did a lot of good things, and our kids continue to get better. Fought through a lot of adversity with injuries and things like that. We got a lot of young players, repetitions that they're going to pay off in the long run. The future here is really, really bright. And so it's great to finish off on a win like that going into the off season, because it gives you some confidence and a little momentum going in that direction. I think you got a piece of what this team can look like when all three phases are clicking, which is what you saw Saturday against a good Army football team. So I'm really pleased. Disappointing our record, obviously. Nobody wants to be 4-8, but I'm really happy with the way our kids kept fighting and pleased where we ended up.
And it's not just you coaching the defense, you got a whole staff. Just how pleased are you in the work of your staff this year and the bonds they built with the student athletes?
Yeah, I've said this before, Phil, we got a great defensive staff. I'm really, really lucky to have the staff that I do. I think they're phenomenal coaches. I think they're phenomenal mentors. I think they're all guys that are in it for the right reasons. I understand there's more to this than wins and losses. And if that wasn't the case, then this could have been a bad situation this year. Our guys know that. There's victories outside of what you see on the scoreboard, and you try to focus on those. But our defensive staff here is phenomenal. It's a group effort, and I get a lot of credit when things go well for us defensively, but our staff's outstanding.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Wags.
So I heard some scuttlebutt about you having, different gap assignments for the Army Navy game. It's not giving away state secrets, because I'm sure Army can look at the tape and figure out what you did, but did you do something unique that may have thrown them off a tad?
I don't know if anything really threw them off a whole lot. I think it's kind of a combination of everything that we've kind of done the last couple of years against them, with maybe a couple little wrinkles here and there. There's always something you get from them and something you get from us that's a little different. You don't want them to ever know exactly how you're going to line up or what you're going to move to. And so, every year we're gonna try to move the front, give them different looks and mix things up and move guys, post snap, and try to make it confusing for their O-line and for the quarterbacks and their reads. And I thought we did a pretty good job of that on Saturday. Didn't get off to a great start. The long run early where we didn't fit the midline up. We were a little bit over rotated with our front, which was my decision against that particular formation, which we corrected shortly after that. But should have still survived that play, but we didn't. But I thought outside of that, our kids executed really, really well. Played extremely hard. Were really physical, especially on a stage like that. It was hard to hear on the field, and so there was some communication issues probably on both sides of the football. But I was really proud of the way that we fought and played, and I thought it showed what kind of players we have here.
So last season you elected to drop an outside linebacker and add an extra D tackle. Why did you not go that route again this year? Because it worked last year.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We didn't do it the whole game, Bill. We mixed in a little bit more of the regular stuff this year because they were a little bit more 30 personnel without a tight end in the game. So, but we certainly did.
When you went with the extra D tackle, who did you take off the field and who'd you put on?
Well, Clay Cromwell came on the game, so we played with two noses. Took out a linebacker.
Got it. And then Strauss is very familiar with what I call the Army trolls on social media, but they were calling Diego a dirty player and saying he's not going to be a good leader in the Marine Corps. What's your response to that?
That's a joke. It's a joke. Yeah, I think the plays that they were referring to was when he held on to a kid's ankle. He didn't twist it. It's cleared up. You see that on film. It's really hard to hear out there. The guy's continuing to run. And you can't hear the whistle. So he's playing until he knows the whistle's blown. He's not trying to twist his leg or anything dirty like that. Diego is really physical. And maybe they don't like that. that piece of it, but he certainly is not a dirty player. There's no doubt about that. It's just some disgruntled losers probably trolling on the internet there.
Well, then one thing I wanted to final play, defensive play several times, and Diego and Jake Busick got credit for the tackle. But the more I watched the play, I think the guy that blew it up was Gibbons. He went flying in there and took out somebody's legs, and it basically, I think that was what started. Do you agree with that? I mean, when you watch that play and the defensive stop on 4th down, what are you seeing?
Yeah. Well, we watched the play over and over and over again in the defense staff room today, and there were a lot of guys that had a play in that particular snap. And it's funny because we were misaligned up front, and it probably was not a great call by me in that particular situation. I expected one thing, they did something else, but we survived it purely because of the physicality and effort that our guys played with. It was a bad call. We were misaligned, but our guys played so hard they overcame it. And that's what we talk about around here all the time, is you can overcome mistakes with pure effort, overcome deficiencies with effort. But Gibby certainly was one of those guys that dove in there, and I thought he played extremely hard during the game. I was really proud of the way he played the entire game. And then Mikey McMorris knifes his way in there, all 165 pounds of him, and does the same thing. You had guys that got on the ground and popped back up, guys that ran from the other side of the field and held the pile up, pushed it back. And so it was one of those plays, like a bunch of those plays in the game, where I thought our effort exceeded theirs, and we played with more of an edge. And that was a huge stop. And what, if you look at that play pre-snap, you don't think there's any way we're going to stop them because they don't have numbers to that side of the field. So it's a bad call by me, misalignment up front, but we overcame it with just pure effort and desire, which was awesome. A real kick out of seeing that play.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite lines in the post-game press conferences. Someone asked Diego if he was the one that made the stop, and he, in his typical Diego fashion, said, "Yeah, me and the 10 other guys are on the field."
Yeah.
That's kind of true.
That was about true. There's probably 7 others, but everybody was trying to get there for sure.
And last but not least for me, I mean, every day, every week, every month, every year, you learn more about the Navy culture, but you were introduced to something new this past week, with a former Navy football player dying in combat. It's happened before. It will happen again, but this is the first time you experienced that. What was your take? You saw the way people reacted, the brotherhood come together for the family. What was your take on what you saw out of that?
Yeah, I tell you, we went to the service yesterday. I had not met Brian before. When our staff went down there to do some leadership training, my wife was pregnant at the time, due any minute, so I stayed back. Didn't want to be 4 hours away, a bus ride away from getting back to her, but I missed out on that opportunity. But being at the service and hearing those guys, people get up and talk about him and the life that he lived, and just how important the brotherhood was to him, and to see thousands of people at that service. Without knowing him, it was emotional for me. Just to see the outpouring of love and respect, and it gives it a different meaning, for sure. But that was a really powerful deal. It makes you look at your own life and say, what are you doing? When you see a guy like that who laid down his life and done all the things that he's done, and does it for everybody else. And it was really powerful, humbling, but just makes you more proud that we were able to pull out that win, and then our guys showed what they showed on such a huge stage, and the heart of the brotherhood, and what it's all about, and what it means. And that was important for our guys to go out and show the world that, and to show everybody out there what that means to them, what it's all about, manifest into a football game. So, but yeah, it was puts everything into a whole different perspective. That's for sure.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Sure.
All right, I'll make another trip around. Scott Wyckoff.
I'm all set, Coach. Thanks for your time all season.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you.
Phil Bergman.
I'm good, thank you.
Wags.
Well, I guess the last question I would ask, I mean, you are losing some big time leaders. Kevin Brennan, you already kind of lost him.
Yeah.
Diego, obviously, who's you don't just replace a Diego Fago and Michael McMorris, who's 4-year starter. I mean, Coach Niumatalolo said, I was glad they kept trying to throw at our best corner. That was good for us. But those are guys going to be hard to replace, not just on the field, but in the leadership as far as the locker room and whatnot. Do you see some other guys that you feel are in that mold?
Yeah, those guys are all unique. They're all going to be really hard to replace. But I do see some promise in some of these young guys and a lot of the guys returning, and excited about that. I think we're going to be a really athletic football team next year. Certainly got to work on replacing the guy in the middle. That's a really important position for us, but I think we've got some good ones. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge. Kevin Brennan and Mitch didn't play for most of the year, but they still had an impact. You saw those guys suited up in the game. They're dialed in. They're continuing to help coach guys up and encourage guys. And but yeah, you always worry about what you're losing, but you always find a way to patch things up and put something together. And guys always step up too. There's always some guys that surprise you and step into certain roles that maybe you didn't expect them to step into. And so we're going to challenge them this off season, and we're going to put in a lot of work. We're going to pay a price. And then, as I said, the cream will kind of rise to the top, and we'll figure out who those guys are going to be for us. But excited about the momentum that we have right now going into the off season. Our kids feel pretty good and excited to get back to work here after we get a little bit of a break. I think we got a chance to build on what we did and be better. Really do, despite the fact that we're losing some really good players and some leaders.
So on the one guy that seems to, fit where Diego's spot is, Will Harbor. I mean, I kept asking all year, when's he going to be back? I didn't realize it was season ending. Do you expect Will Harbor to be back in the spring and maybe competing for Diego's position?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the kind of linebacker room plays out. Harbor has played some will linebacker. That's probably a logical fit to move into Mike. I think Blizzard had a really good couple of weeks toward the end of the year. I think he showed a ton of promise. You saw what Ramos did. I thought he played really, really well on Saturday. He's 205 pounds, mixing it up in there, flying around. And so we've got a lot of young guys that need to have a really good off season as far as putting on some weight and get bigger and stronger, and then to get a solid spring ball under their belt and another fall camp and a full off season is going to be really, really great for their development. Tyler Fletcher can play will. He can play striker. He can do a lot of different things, and we're just scratching the surface with some of those guys. So the offseason is going to be great for them.